Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And before I start my presentation, I wanted to tell you the reason why we have such a symposium in Turkey. UniMET, which is a new program for unifying the maritime education and training, is a European-funded project. We had a major trans-European conference in London to present our case to the colleagues throughout Europe, and then a decision was made that some of the countries selected to pilot the UniMET program should have a symposium, a national symposium. Turkey has been selected as one of the countries to pilot the UniMET project. For some of you may not be aware, recently we made a proposal through the European Union, through the Turkish government, for a multi-million center for maritime education and training. It's called Turkish Maritime Center of Excellence. People talk about this, but I can assure you that it is going to be a reality. There is going to be a center in Tuzla. So what do we mean by excellence? So this is an example of what one means by excellence in terms of maritime education and training. The maritime education training, we are the largest holders of maritime education training, European Union funded maritime education training programs, as well as number of research, Framework 7 and Factories of the Future program to underpin such developments. What do we mean by innovation? Innovation was defined when we set up the European program in early 1980s. We thought business not as usual. So that's a very simple definition. And usually people say, what is excellence? We will have this concept of excellence is to go beyond the minimum standards and to make sure there is a recognition for it. The topic of my presentation is innovation in maritime education and training. So, the UniMET approach. What is it? First of all, I will talk to you for a few minutes what is UniMET, and then I will tell you why we need UniMET, and I will obviously conclude after my presentation. Most of you are familiar with maritime education and training. You know there is IMO standards, STCW. It was designed in 1978. It has always been modified. The latest changes was in 2010. One of the problems with IMO is I'm very supportive of IMO. IMO is the international legislator for various aspects of maritime, not only just maritime education and training, all aspects of maritime affairs. But the problem is if you go to some of the meetings, you will notice that it's a huge body. There are hundreds of delegations coming in, and they are there to guide, they are there to help and support, but they are not a very flexible system, and they are not very responsive. Whereas within Europe, people like us, we can get together, put a proposal, and if the proposal is good, it's funded, and things could take place. Also, there is a body called the European Maritime Safety Agency, EMSA. EMSA is very similar to IMO, with one difference. EMSA has got funds, and it also has got teeth. It monitors standards and makes sure they are implemented. So the problem with IMO is they always try to modify rather than looking at what was the situation in 1978 and what was the situation in 2012. Let's now come and design a new system. They didn't. They always, because of the problem, because of the inertia, they always try to modify things as they go along. There are three concerns we have within Europe. When I say Europe, I worked for a number of years, supported the European Union, and I was involved in the first network of European projects called Eurotinket, which created the Framework 7, created the Leonardo project, so on. So our history goes back to the days that when things started. That's why we have been successful, because we know the system well. And we don't expect any favors from anybody. We usually write a very good proposal, it's an open bid, and based on that, which is the success rate is about 10% usually on average, we managed to get a lot of projects to do what we intended to do here in Turkey. But we have three concerns. The first concern is, are STCW, these are the minimum standards for maritime education and training, are they implemented correctly? How are these standards monitored? And why there is so much focus on minimum standards. We know, based on our research, safety is an issue. 80% of accidents at sea are caused by human error. We have, in the last 9 years, here in Turkey, but in the past, for the last 25 years, we have been trying to find out why. You cannot just say human error. Where is it? So we have done an extensive study of accidents in the past, and based on that we have identified certain deficiencies in maritime education and training, but obviously in other areas, but we have been primarily concerned on education side. Also, we know the industry is facing a shortage of well-qualified officers, primarily due to young people not choosing a seafaring career for living. And the reason for this is, it used to be fun to be a seafarer. It's not fun anymore. There are business pressures, there are security issues. These poor young people come in, they go from one port to another. The question of compatibility and mutual recognition of certification and so on is a major issue at this moment in time in Europe. So what can we do to solve some of these problems? Europe set up this European Maritime Safety Agency. You may have your views on, those of you who are familiar with EMSA, you may have your views about EMSA. I'm very pro EMSA because they actually say, okay, if IMO has set up minimum standards, who is monitoring this? IMO doesn't monitor it. They haven't got the resources. So EMSA was formed to make sure some standards are met. As you know, they go and visit various maritime education administration, maritime education and training institutions, not only within Europe. They go outside to other countries who trade with Europe. They want to make sure the waters around Europe is safe, the ports are safe, and if there are standards, you are going to implement it, and implement it correctly. They came to TUDAF twice. And in fact, initially TUDAF wasn't going to be considered. We insisted that TUDAF is a center, is implementing it at that time, an innovative project called Safety on Sea. Safety on Sea was an integrated program developed based on North European, Middle European, and Southern European programs combined, implemented at TUDAF, accredited by international bodies, and it received its international recognition. All TUDAF students, some of them are here, they can go to anywhere in Europe and they will be treated as a European cadet or a cadet European officers. So this is very unusual. They even can sit for instance, for the Maritime Coast Guard Agency of UK Certificate of Competency and become UK Officer of Watch. So that was a success, and the important thing was that we weren't talking about it. It was actually happening, and it was implemented in reality. Now, what are the responsibilities? I did mention EMSA rights report. Okay, these are confidential, but some people have got access. They identify where the problems are. And the story is, how can UniMET support EMSA? And what the situation is in Europe. I will explain why. EMSA at the moment goes to various maritime administration and they're just monitored because there isn't a standard system. They just look to see what is the administration is doing, or they come to institutions like Istanbul Technical University, Maritime Faculty, to see where things are. They only got a checklist in a sense. These are the standards. Where is it? It's very difficult because they interact. Where is this? They have to go and get the documentation and so on. UniMET gives them a model and an opportunity to all maritime education and training, not only in Europe, in the world, to set up this system, which is based on what IMO says, what Europe wants, and I will go through the detail in the next few minutes, so that institutions know what EMSA wants, and when EMSA goes, the two things are matched. Now, if you look at what is UniMET, it's a unified program going beyond STCW, minimum standards, and it is accredited by major accrediting and awarding body. And we have got a number of guests. Unfortunately, we were stuck in the traffic, so some of them may join us later. There is a representative from one of these accrediting bodies, and there is a representative from one of these awarding bodies. The difference between awarding body and accrediting body is, awarding body says you can give a qualification, like a degree. Accrediting body says your degree satisfies the industrial requirements. So both of these bodies, which are international bodies, they have accredited this program. And some of the changes that we have introduced as a part of UniMET is being accredited now. So it means UniMET has got international recognition. So if the students go on these programs, wherever they go, whatever they get, that will be recognized Europe-wide, worldwide. Now, UniMET also identifies and promotes good practice. What is a good practice? We have defined it within our impact. There's a European project called Impact, www.impact.pro. We say any solution that solves a particular problem, or anything that identifies a deficiency, is a good practice. And we don't talk about best practice. Technically, best practice is among a number of good practices. The solution that is selected by an organization is the best practice. Now, and we wanted to make sure that not UniMET, but various elements of it is of international standards and within the European qualification framework. There is a framework, there is an international framework, IO sites. There is a European framework, both in terms of qualification and practice. So we have, whatever we design, have to do it within these international and European frameworks. It integrates a number of solutions, good practices, and I mentioned MARTEL. These are reality, by the way. These are developed by TUDAF, by its partners. TUDAF and PIRDAIS are all one family. As far as we are concerned, there is only one Vakif, one foundation. And what is important, that this organization here has been party to develop a number of solutions. MARTEL is a set of standards for maritime English. It's an online test, and also it has a number of guidelines. And if you're a cadet, there is a phase 1, you have to pass that test, so there is a standard. And if you're an officer, if marine engineering, there is a test. If it's a deck, there is a test. If you're a senior marine engineer, there is a test. If there is a senior deck officer, there is a test. So these tests have been developed. And also as a part of MARTEL, we have got 2 European projects. One is called Marine, one is called Captains. We are developing content for it. Now, EGMDSS, what is that? Again, this is an e-learning, e-assessment for maritime communication, because we thought maritime communication is a major issue, especially when it comes to integrating various electronic navigation devices like ECDIS, ACIS, ARPA, radar, and so on. So, because a modern bridge is a combination of a number of electronic devices, and these are integrated. They should not be taught individually. EGMDS won the European Enterprise Award. Is one of the top e-learning. So, an organization in Turkey has been party to a major e-learning package development. SailPass recently finished. It was led by TUDAF. What is it? Ships are becoming more modern, they are becoming more automated. Now accidents generally are decreasing, but accidents due to automation failures are increasing. There are a lot of engine stops in the middle of the sea. Every one of those stops is an accident waiting to happen. So as far as we were concerned, we looked at the accidents, we selected a number of these. We developed ship simulator exercises based on previous accidents. We also developed in parallel the PC-based. So if you haven't got access to ship simulators, some of the institutions in Turkey don't, then they can actually use these PC-based exercises. Mayday was the same. We train our cadets for all possibilities. But technically, we should focus on where the emergency have happened in the past. Again, we went back to the accidents, we look at the emergencies, we develop a set of ship simulator exercises, scenarios, in parallel again, a PC base. So in a sense, there have been a lot of other projects. The idea is not to go through each one of them. But UniMET technically takes advantages of some of these solutions which I mentioned in terms of MARTEL, SailPass, and so on. It takes care of IMO course models and the latest changes to produce the UniMET. The only thing that some of you may not know, if you are a maritime education and training, you usually use either, they call it MNTD, Merchant Navy Training Board portfolio for sea training, or use the International Shipping Federation portfolio. And these 2 portfolios are used by everybody. UniMET says, no, how can you have 2 different portfolios? We have cross-referenced these, we find out what is missing in MNTD, what is missing in ISF. We now have UniMET, ISF plus, MNTD plus. So EMSA now knows, if they go to a maritime education training, if there is an ISF, they would ask, what about the pluses? Are you doing those 2? So there is no problem now. The both systems have been harmonized. This is UniMET. I've already explained what it is, but it is technically, I don't know whether my pen from here is going to work. The laser sensor is not very good, but nevertheless. Firstly, it is based on IMO revised model courses. It takes into account STC safety courses' latest syllabuses. You also bring some of the good practices I mentioned, and if the minimum standards are set, we will refer to the person who's graduating, satisfying the minimum standards, as Officer Class 1. So before, as you know, E2 students, they were complaining. How come to that is having students who are on the course, and then they can become officers and so on, and we go to university, we work 4 years and do all this maths and science, and we are treated equally. Technically, they weren't equal. They were university graduates, whereas the students from TUDAB were not going to get a university degree. So technically, the TUDAB was producing officer class 1, whereas it was class producing something more. So we want to make sure universities like E2 or others get the recognition. In fact, PRAs should get the recognition for what they do extra. So the first one is officer class 1, minimum standards of IMO. The next one is officer class 2, which takes into account some of these good practices. Then we have a master class. Master class are the people who go to maritime university like PRAs, and they do a lot more. They are the graduates. And we also got the captains of industry. The captains of industry are people who do like Ergun, Captain Ergun Demirat, who's now a doctor, congratulations. He's the one who's got it. He's gone at his age, registered for a PhD in maritime education and training. He's got his degree like Captain Olbayrak sitting behind us somewhere. Is Captain Olbayrak here? He was gone. Well, no, he got his doctorate. I take my hat off to these guys. But there should be some sort of recognition. These guys have gone beyond officer level, beyond the master level. These are the captains of industry. And we want EMSA to make that distinction and to make sure that they get that recognition. We also have negotiated that UniMET will take advantage of the credit transfer system in Europe. So we have got the captain of industry at level 8 and 7 of European qualification. We have decided what the credit is, the period, how long it will take. We have also decided on the master class, officer 1, officer 2, at what level of European qualification, what credit, how many years. We have given credit to sea training, because to us, sea training is very important. For those of you who are familiar with credit transfer scheme, you only give credit transfer scheme for academic work, not for vocational. We want to make sure the vocational aspects is also accredited and treated equally. So, and we also give credit obviously to vocational schools. They should have some credit. So when they do come in, some of these poor boys have been doing 4 years of study. They should not be treated the same. And we also said that if once you go beyond the officer level 2, if you are talking about master level, like what PRACE is doing, then there has to be some sort of additional units. And our additional units is there should be a project, there should be a unit on marine management, finance, and law. That's not to say E2 doesn't do it or PRACE is not doing it. We are just saying there should be. And obviously there should be a distinction between deck and marine engineering. In marine engineering, for instance, there should be advanced marine engineering at management level. There should be, for instance, for deck, something on cargo and passenger ships. So we are hoping that if this is going to be a master class, it's going to be above officer level 2 plus some additional units. And obviously, we have got arrangement with Plymouth University, and I'm sure PRACE is in the future going to work with many other universities. But if there is no reason that students from one country cannot come to Turkey and vice versa, so we are trying to make sure if there is an Erasmus program, then there is this top-up. In the past, 2 level students went to Plymouth, and after 1 year, they completed their degree study. Why did we send 2 level students to Plymouth? The reason we did it to make sure we benchmark, and our standards, we can check them. Is our standards at TUDAB as good as Plymouth? And every student went to Plymouth have come back with success. The last year, you got upper second, right? Upper second is one of the best honors degree you can get from a British university. So in a sense, it wasn't the idea that we want to implement a British system. We are trying to implement a European system. And Turkey has taken the lead. And Turkey, the first center, maritime center of excellence, will be set up in Turkey. We have also, people sometimes argue, what is the credit? What do we mean by officer class 1? How do you equivalent, what is it equivalent to in terms of IMO, model courses and so on? So we are going to discuss that in the workshop this afternoon. And also some universities run 8 units per year, some 6, some 4. It doesn't really matter. If you use in 1 year 8 units, 1 unit is 7.5 credit, and each unit is 60 hours. If at the end, you in 1 year, like Plymouth, you run 4 units of study, 1 unit is 15 credits, and each unit should be under 20 hours. So we have both this equivalency between credits and number of hours and so on. Later on, we are going to talk about Sail Ahead. It's another project, but it is for the workshop in the afternoon. Because people talk about what we do at PLAs, or what we do at E2, or whatever happens in the maritime education institution. What is important also, what happens in industry. We have gone to European Union and we told them, young people are not joining the profession. There is a shortages. Even many Turkish ship owners are recruiting from Philippines, from not China. China is going to float the market. Now, there are a lot of unemployed Turks, young Turks. There are institutions like PLAs, like E2 or whatever. There should be this institution should give an opportunity to these young people to come. And there are jobs waiting for them. And the pay is good. So in a sense, what we said was, let us make this profession more attractive to young people. So we have cross-reference what they do in the college, what they gain at sea, to the jobs on shore. And so the young people, it's an online platform. So they go and, when they're at sea, they look to see what jobs there are at shore, on shore, and what they need to develop. So they have time to develop those skills. I won't go through this because we are going to discuss it at the workshop. But those of you who are interested, you become involved. There are going to be 2 workshops, one on UniMET, and the other one is going to be on European research and development. We have a colleague from TÜBİTAK, Professor Sarhat Belik here. Unfortunately, he was stuck in the traffic. He should join us. He's from TÜBİTAK. And what we have done is, some of you may not be familiar with Factories of the Future. It's a major program in Turkey. And we want to put some sort of funding into underpinning some of these programs we are doing here, and hopefully have PLAs. But one thing I want you to show you, when they ask captains and officers at sea, 414 of them, most of them prefer to work on shore. This is a reality. So many young people, especially if they are graduate, if they get the opportunity, they do not want to stay at sea too long. This is a reality of life. This is the captains, this is the cadets. Again, majority prefer to work at. We are going to discuss that at the workshop. The idea wasn't to discuss it now. But the fact is, cadets, if you ask them, where do you want to work? They don't want to work. They rather stay on shore. And that reality has to be realized. During the workshop, I'm going to go through some of these main elements of UniMET. Because UniMET is not just the IMO model courses. It's all these other good practice courses that I mentioned. So conclusion. UniMET is not just a set of harmonized maritime education and training. It contains its own online platform with several variations of maritime education and training programs. Examples in Spain, examples in Lithuania, examples in Holland, examples in Turkey, examples. So all these examples are like chapters. So people can refer what is happening in Holland. At the end, the Holland is harmonized with UniMET. Spanish program is harmonized with UniMET. So everybody, there is a middle model which has taken all the good practices and gets harmonized a unified program for European consideration. It's based on the outcome of several major research and development projects. We didn't just come into the European Union, give us money, we want to do this. We had to do a lot of research, we had to produce a lot of paper, we had to present this paper at conferences. UniMET and each element of it has been tested in real environments. These have been tested, these haven't just been developed and hope for the best. UniMET and its good practices will receive international recognition. I notice our colleague from BTEC is here. Yes, temperature. Nice to see you. And he's going to make a presentation. They are putting their program in line with ours. They operate in over 100 countries, so hopefully they have a say. And we have been working with them, and hopefully we will work with you in the future. And finally, we know Sail Ahead is going to make it more attractive to young people to join our profession. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.